Here's what's coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
Taxes are always changing, so year by year, what can we do this year to make next year look better? And what can we do in the long term to make the future years look better?
If they're going to work up to the age 70, then they can afford to wait on it, right? But if they're not going to work, where's that income going to come from? It's most likely coming from their retirement savings. And that's where we have to be careful in income planning to not dwindle down that retirement savings to what I would call a critical level.
They are not focused on truly what is best for the client. It's okay, we want to provide something that's okay for the client, but guess what? They're not working for you, they're working for the bank. Their job is to make as much money as possible for the bank.
And now the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to this week's show. Make sure you grab that cup of coffee and a pen and paper because we've got great information lined up for you this week. So don't go anywhere because Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Retirement True or False. Mike, my first question is for you. If you have already retired, then it's too late to get a second opinion about your portfolio. True or false?
It's too late?
Is it too late?
It's never too late. Come on, you know that. Of course that's false. In fact, when you are retired, it's probably the best time to get a second opinion on what you're doing with your retirement planning. And I mean, think about it. If you're working, you're adding money to the portfolio. So if you make a mistake, well, two things are happening in your favor. One, you have more time to make up for those mistakes. And number two, because you're adding money, you're adding to the pot, right? You're adding to the pot. Well, once you retire, there's no more adding to the pot. If anything, it's coming out, not going in. And if you make a mistake, you may not have the time to make up for those mistakes like you once had. You don't have the cash flow going in to make up for those mistakes. So the mistakes that you make in retirement, they can be devastating. That is the time to make sure you're getting that second opinion. Do not leave your retirement to chance.
And John, I think a lot of people might think that, and we talk about it often, Mike, that, hey, no harm, no foul. Come on in. Have someone look at it. What's the worst that can happen? You send them home saying, what you got is right on. Do you find a lot of people think, hey, maybe I'm not sure if I should be here or not because I locked something in years ago and...
Yeah, and I'm thinking of an example from last week where someone was in the office and he had a bond portfolio where he'd been investing in bonds pretty much his whole life, and he's at a place now where he's starting to rethink that, seeing what's going on with the interest rate environment. And so we just simply talked to him and brought up other examples of other tools that are available in today's market to accomplish similar returns to bonds, and ultimately those were things that he hadn't even thought of. So
just a little bit of good information could go a long way, especially in retirement.
Right.
John, my next question is for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Taxes will not go up in the future. True or false?
Not going up. Who knows?
Not going up.
Who knows? That's one that we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it can go either direction at this point. A lot of people are speculating that maybe taxes will go down, but it may only be a temporary change. So we really don't know at this point in time. It's something that we'll have to just sort of continue to watch, and that's why on a year-by-year basis, we have to be sitting down with our clients to understand sort of what their tax situation is and make the appropriate adjustments within their plan to cover those.
And I like the way you put that too, because the reality, I think, my personal opinion, is that there's a better chance of them going up long-term than down long-term, so wouldn't you have to build your portfolio around that, Mike?
Yeah, and I would simply say this. Anyone who spends any amount of time at the website usdebtclock.org, I mean, that is a great website. It gives you the real financial position of our country. And if you spend any time on that website, you know over time tax rates are going to go up, not just for the rich, but for everyone. you may see them go down for a period of time, but think back. Ronald Reagan brought tax rates down. How long did it take Congress, though, to start ratcheting them up again? I mean, it's just a matter of time, and back up they go. The reality is, what John said, I think, is what is really important here. He mentioned how there's a reason that we sit down with our clients every year and take a look at their tax planning. Not only are we doing their returns, but we do tax planning. We sit down, we look at those returns and say, all right, what's going on here with this return? What's going on with this client's situation? Because we need to, year by year, taxes are always changing. So year by year, what can we do this year to make next year look better? And what can we do in the long term to make the future years look better? And that's something that unfortunately most people just don't get, particularly as they're nearing retirement and going into retirement.
John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you'll have clients come in, and I'm imagining they'd be thankful that you're actually having a tax conversation rather than just adjusting the portfolio with different tools or products.
Oh, exactly. And it's typically conversations that they've never had with their financial advisor before. Maybe they were sitting down with their accountant and potentially the accountant brought it up, but that doesn't always happen either. And so it sort of opens up a whole new light to them of, hey, this is a different perspective that we need to consider in retirement planning, because as much as money they can keep in their pocket, all the better.
Yeah, remember this. Every dollar you save on your tax return is like a free bit of positive rate of return on your money.
Mike, John, thanks so much. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come.
Life, a series of moments. A touch, a look, a laugh. Successful people. It might not be superior imagination. It just might be superior retirement planning. Imagine what's next. Plan today, own tomorrow.
You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come.
Welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Talk. We've got a terrific topic this week, and I'm joined here today by Larry Flynn, one of the advisors here in the office. Welcome, Larry. I'm glad you're here.
Glad to be here, Mike.
Fantastic. So, folks, the question, or the topic of the week, rather, is Social Security. Let's talk a little bit about Social Security and how do you make the decision when to take Social Security? What are some of the factors that come into play? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, Mike, everybody has a different circumstance, right?
Yeah.
If you're fortunate enough to have a pension, all right, we don't see much of that anymore, but if you're fortunate enough to have a pension, you've got a significant amount of guaranteed income already coming in, right? Mm-hmm. That person's ability maybe to wait on Social Security, okay, might be better than in others.
Now, by the way, is a lot of folks there at home who are watching, I know we hear all the time, I'm going to take Social Security just as soon as I can because I'm scared that it might not be there, right, later on.
Right.
And then all these, different programs, I think they say, really the opposite is true, that if you can, you should try to wait.
Yeah.
Is that always a good idea to try to wait as long as you can to take Social Security?
Well, here's the fact, okay? There's an amount that they can get when they're 62. Taking it early, right? Mm-hmm. If they wait to age 70, okay, that amount is almost double.
A lot more if they wait until 70.
Yeah, so, if I maybe can get $1,500 a month when I'm age 62, and I can wait 8 years, and that's now going to be $3,000 for the rest of my life, hey, that's significant,
That's
right?
a big difference.
That's a big difference.
And I know what you're thinking at home. You're thinking, well, wait a minute. Yeah, it's a lot more money, but I have to wait 8 years? I mean, how long do you have to live before that breaks even generally?
They say if you're going to live probably to, 78, that's when you break even.
So that soon?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how does somebody determine, what is the best way to determine when to take Social Security? I mean, because it's not just about Social Security. People have, like you mentioned, they may have pensions, right? You might have IRAs or 401ks. different investment accounts. How does that all come together? How do you make those decisions?
Well, the first key question you have to answer is longevity. Okay, if I am that person that's going to live out past age 78, then economically it's going to make sense to wait, right?
By the way, how many people live past age 78? What's the percentage? Do
It's
you know?
pretty big at this point.
Folks, by the way, it's like 90-some%. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge number. I mean, they're saying the average, the average couple who's 65, one of them's going to live to 95 or some crazy thing, right?
Right, that's right.
So ideally, they want to wait if they can.
Right. But the fact is, you're exactly right, as you mentioned earlier. If they wait, where's that income going to come from? If they're still working, fine, right? If they're going to work up to the age 70, then they can afford to wait on it, right? But if they're not going to work, where's that income going to come from? It's most likely coming from their retirement savings. And that's where we have to be careful in income planning to not dwindle down that retirement savings to what I would call a critical level.
Right, because you know what happens is when you look at, if you spend down all your retirement savings before 70 and then you take Social Security, you don't have as much in savings left over. What if you have a big health care issue later on and you're going to want that money to pay for your health care? So there's a lot of moving parts. This is one of the reasons I know we talk all the time about planning. You know, most financial advisors, they're just investment counselors. They just say, hey, let's try to build a diversified portfolio. And guess what? A diversified portfolio, it's not a retirement plan, right? It's not. It's more than that. It's taxes and income planning and Social Security and, insurance planning, all this kind of stuff, all how it comes together, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so anyway, when it comes to Social Security, your decision as to when to take it, it's going to be different from your neighbors, different from your family members. It depends on your circumstances. And if you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, please feel free, give us a call, come visit with us, or visit our website.
You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it. And leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are financial professionals. From investments and insurance products to tax reduction strategies and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, provided by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. You've worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary consultation, simply contact us today.
Having no clear retirement plan is a mistake I see a lot in our financial planning office when we meet with someone new. It is extremely rare that someone comes in and has a clearly defined income plan for his or her retirement. If you don't have a clear retirement plan, then be one of the first 5 callers, and you will receive a free Centennial 5-star analysis. There is no obligation and no cost if you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement. Here's what you'll receive. A free report that tells you exactly what you're paying your current money managers, both what you see and what you don't see. A tailored plan to safeguard your investments from market volatility. Tax analysis to reduce liability and increase cash flow. And a custom income plan to boost your retirement. So call now for your free, no obligation Centennial 5-star analysis. And remember, you only retire once. Let's make sure you do it right the first time.
You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come. Hi, and welcome to this week's AskMikeCFP.com, where you email your questions into us and we answer them here on the show. Mike, my first question is for you, and it's from Brian, and he writes, Mike, I'm 62 years old. My wife wants me to retire and start collecting Social Security, but I'm not ready to retire, and I honestly don't think we have enough money saved up. What is your recommendation? How should we go about this? I'd like to get on the same page with my wife without inciting World War III?
Uh-oh, he's in trouble,
Yeah.
right? Because you know what they say, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, sir.
Right? I've learned, been married 25 years, I've learned the magic words with my wife are, yes, dear, whatever she says. But I'll tell you what, unfortunately, retiring, he's worried about retiring at 62, doesn't have enough money, I think it was. And the problem there is, how do you know? How do you really know? This is, again, one of the reasons we always encourage people to come visit with us, because we sit down with people every day and help them evaluate whether or not they have enough money to retire. So do you have enough to retire? Isn't it amazing, John? A lot of times people think, oh man, I have to keep working a few more years. I just don't have enough. But they just don't understand how to take the money that they've saved and turn that into income streams for their retirement. So you may have enough money, might not have enough money. This is one of those cases where I highly encourage, come visit with us. Let's do the math. Let's find out where you really are so that we can get a satisfactory answer. So, if we'll find out if you can retire or not, and if you cannot, we'll at least share with the wife why not.
And listen, if a visit helps prevent World War III, then by all means, go ahead with that.
That's right. I mean, come on. It's World War III. We don't want that.
No, we don't need that. Brian, thanks so much for that question. John, my next one is for you. And it's from Nancy, and she writes, my husband and I watch your show frequently. We currently use a financial advisor at our bank and wondered, what is the difference between someone like him and what your firm does? Do you cost more to use? What do you do differently that would help us?
Great question, Nancy, and thanks for sending that in. There's different approaches to retirement planning and different types of retirement advisors, and that's really what it comes down to, is finding someone that specializes in retirement planning. And there's a difference there. Our approach is based on the fiduciary standard, where we're looking out for our client's best interest. There's certain advisors that fall under the suitability standard, and that actually represents a high majority of financial advisors right now. So you want to find specific people that are talking directly about retirement planning and the different approaches that they take to retirement planning.
That's important to point out, because I think a lot of times, and most advisors are really trained to help you accumulate money, Mike. But when it comes to the point where you go into retirement, you have to adopt a different strategy. Talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're looking at here for Nancy is if she's working with a bank, they're taking all comers, right? You might be 20 years old looking to begin to save. They're taking you on as a client. You might be in your 40s and trying to build, and they're taking you on as a client. Or you might be retired, and it doesn't matter. It's like a general practitioner. The reality is this, though. When it comes to your retirement, you need to have a specialist, someone who actually specializes in what you refer to, not the accumulation stage, but the distribution preservation stage of your retirement or of your life. Sometimes we call it the second half of life. And John, I think you said it really well. I'm still waiting to see the first financial advisor at a bank who's a fiduciary, who truly is a fiduciary. And what I mean by that is they are not focused on truly what is best for the client. It's, okay, we want to provide something that's okay for the client, but guess what? They're not working for you. They're working for the bank. Their job is to make as much money as possible for the bank. And so you want to make sure you're working with a fiduciary and one who specializes in that second half, that preservation and distribution mode.
Mike, John, thanks so much. Hey, if you'd like to have your questions answered here on the show, it's really easy. Just go to askmikecfp.com and keep sending those questions in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come. You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come. Hi, and welcome to this week's Retirement True and False. As usual, we've got some great questions, and Mike, I'm going to start with you. Mutual funds could have very heavy fees associated with them, true or false?
Oh, that one's true. That is true. They could have. Not all mutual funds have heavy fees. I mean, Vanguard is famous as a fund family for having low fees, for example. But many funds do come with fees, and the toughest part about it, Mark, is that you have two levels of fees with mutual funds. You have the fees that you see, or that maybe a better way to say it would be the fees that they tell you about in a prospectus, because you never see the fees, of course, but the fees that they tell you about in the prospectus. But then you have the fees that they don't have to tell you about, things like transaction costs, tax costs, cash drag, all these other types of fees that are associated with mutual funds. So you may look at a mutual fund, the typical fund, they might say, oh, it's 1% a year. But after all these fees are done, it might be 2% or 3%. And those hidden fees, they can really add up. So do mutual funds have significant costs? They may. Not all of them do. Institutional funds, for example, are cheaper. Vanguard's cheaper. But there are certainly a number of retail funds that have significant fees attached to them.
And Art, have you ever seen mutual funds with higher than a 3% fee?
Absolutely. We have very sophisticated software that can get behind these fees and really iron out what that looks like. And we see that surprisingly more than you would wish you did. We saw one the other day that was 4.5% mutual fund cost, and somebody had well over $500,000 in that one fund. Do you know what that worked out to be? They weren't too happy about that because they were led to believe there was the typical answer around 1%. We hear that quite often when people think the fees are. It's a big difference. 3.5% over a couple years with $500,000, not pretty.
We can do those numbers pretty fast. And Art, my next question is for you. All financial advisors, and this actually fits in great with that, all financial advisors must act on behalf of their clients' best interests. True or false?
I wish that was true. I really do. But unfortunately, it's false. There's two types of financial advisors out there right now. There's the fiduciaries and then the advisors that fall under what's called the suitability standard. They don't have to act in the client's best interest, and that's surprising for a lot of people. They just have to sell what's suitable for them. Making sure they can't get sued in a way is really what it comes down to. They can sell those mutual funds that have high costs because they've deemed they fit their risk tolerance or something like that. They don't have to go out and search for, maybe there's a fund out there that looks just like that 4.5% fee fund, but it gets them down to 1 or 1.5. Well, that over time makes a big difference. And as a fiduciary in our firm here, we have to act in the best interest of our clients, looking out for all those things, not only just fees, but risk levels, and ultimately developing a plan that has taxes built into it, estate planning, an income plan, so they have a well-rounded plan in their retirement.
Mike, we say the word fiduciary, but I just really wonder how many people understand what that means, that there is in fact a higher designation of financial advisor. Take a minute, tell me about the fiduciary.
Yeah, of course, and I actually talk about this when I give my talks, these public seminars that we do. I ask the audience a lot of times, I say, all right, fiduciary, let's look at that as a word. How many of you have heard that word? Well, everyone's heard of that word, but how many of you actually know what it means? And so I'd give a little example. I simply say, so Mark, imagine that here you are, you're talking to me as a financial advisor, and you're talking to me about what you should do with your life savings. This is all the money that you've saved your whole life. And so I ask the question, do you think it is reasonable to expect that I will give you advice that is truly in your best interest, focused on you and you alone? Is it reasonable to expect that that's the kind of advice I would give you? Well, most people say, sure, that's what you would want. Okay, that's a fiduciary. And unfortunately, what Art was talking about when he talks about the suitability level says, no, I'm not going to give you advice that's best for you. I'm going to give you advice that's okay with you. But it's really going to be what's best for me. Right? That's suitability. And I ask the audience, I say, so you tell me, is it okay for someone to act in that manner? Well, nobody wants that. They want a fiduciary. Yet 95% of financial advisors are not fiduciaries. 95% of them fall under suitability. And that, so when people are skeptical about financial advisors, right there, they should be. And when people come visit with us, for a lot of them, it's the first time. Wouldn't you say, it's the first time they've ever really spoken to a true fiduciary, someone who actually truly focuses on what's best for them.
Oh, isn't it surprising when we sometimes we just get done with sentencing somebody for like an hour, and they'll sit back and say, "You guys have taught us more in an hour about what we had with our old advisor or current advisor than what they've taught me over 4 or 5 years."
Yeah, it's just an issue of one level is all about focusing on you, the client, and what's best for you. The other, it's a focus on what's best for the firm.
Mike, Art, thanks so much. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching Retiring Well with Michael Reese, because your best is yet to come.
Thanks for watching the show this week. And remember, if you have any questions, please feel free. Call us at the office or visit our website. Remember, you only want to retire once. Make sure you do it right the first time. We'll see you next week.